Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I just found a sub-reality that I did not know existed. I'm saying sub-reality, I don't mean it that way. I just mean these people in their own reality thing with one another. Claudia from Cabin Talk went on a tear in one of her videos. Let's talk about an extremely touchy subject of race. Racism. Let's talk about that. Let's handle that shit on YouTube. Now, this was to some degree aimed at a Noah. Now, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. I'm going to dig into this because that's my job. I am the arbiter in that case. I'll be the arbiter. I'll be God's arbiter. At the peace conference that I was at, apparently they wanted to go into a meeting that was deemed for blacks. Now, Claudia did go to that particular meeting. In that meeting, she saw somebody videotaping. She wanted to videotape. And she said, that person is videotaping because they're black. And I don't necessarily like sitting here without that privilege of videotaping. And she does a 10-minute video going on a tear from that inception. Now, certainly, this is kind of comical. I'm sorry, this is kind of comical. Claudia, you need context. I'm sorry, you need context. I don't necessarily know if that means just because you're not necessarily from here originally or what. And I understand your perspective. I could see it. Like, I know where you are. You're not yelling because of the camera. The camera was a kickoff point. But that's not why you were pissed. I'm going to somewhat interpret this, at least the way I'm understanding it in my headspace. I go to a particular meeting. I am to the point where I don't necessarily view race. I don't care what your race is. And I see a meeting that says a black XYZ, whatever that meeting is. Everybody else perceives this as being perfectly natural, but this meeting is essentially saying one particular race is defining that it wants people to meet up by their race. All right? Well, I'm interested in this. I'm going to go see this. I want to see what's going on. She goes and she told she can't videotape. She perceived this as, A, the first thing, why is this just for blacks? We're at a peace summit. Peace summit means all of us. Why is this just for blacks? 2, this person is videotaping. Now, I make the argument that that person might have just been videotaping for the group because the group may have wanted their things videotaped by the group. It may not have anything at all to do with this quote-unquote black thing. It may have been, this is a group for blacks. We want, for the most part, an aggregation of blacks in this particular group, just like the Congressional Black Caucus, just like the NAACP, just like many other groups. In having this particular group, we want somebody to videotape it, and we don't necessarily want multiple streams. We want to control the stream at that point. I don't understand why that's not reasonable. It's their group. They can do whatever they want to that group. Now, if they make the decision to videotape, they make the decision to videotape. And maybe they want to maintain that particular videotape. They may not want it live stream. That's their right as a group. That's their right as a group. I'm missing your offense here. I got to be honest. I'm missing your offense. And look, she seems perfectly nice. She was with Sane Progressive. Debbie is fucking awesome. They seemed okay. Now, her being angry like this can't just be the video thing. But I think I know what it is. It's a perspective that doesn't include context. That's what it is. I'm sorry, it's a flawed perspective. Now, yes, you can be to the point of I'm all peace, light, and love, and I don't see race. But certainly, you know you live within a fabric that does. And in living in a fabric that does, for how many years we've been in this country, a large percentage of that we were slaves. We were owned as property, like a cow or pig. That was us. Now, as that went on, you had people who struggled, who fought, who died, were broken as people, who had families destroyed, just for the rights of equality. Don't you know those things, in many respects, aggregated into groups? So yes, you had groups that were, for the most part, African Americans. We didn't start this particular segment of our existence. That wasn't us. We didn't make the classification of race. That wasn't us. They used that classification of race. That schism wasn't put into society by us. Which part of this don't you understand? Yes, you have people who aggregated around race, because for the most part, that's what was being vilified. If you're attacking something and I'm aggregating my forces around the thing to which you're attacking my identity. How do you think those people are going to respond? How do you think those people are going to respond? Do you think they're going to respond in a way where they're going to aggregate in the game space that is being attacked? Race. Race. Anybody who's in this country fully understands it. Now, you can pretend, or other people sometimes pretend, just to be dickish. Well, hey, why do we have this black so-and-so? Any look of history with any level of context shows you why those things exist. I would love to get to the point in society where it doesn't matter. I would love that. But let's not pretend that we're there. And certainly you can see that those particular groups who may want to aggregate that way, for whatever reason they want to aggregate in that particular way, it's their right. It's their choice. The game space was chosen for them. They are playing within a particular game space. You can dislike them playing that way in that game space, but they themselves did not define the game space to which they're playing. Meaning, yes, they're going to aggregate around race, because race has been such a big goddamn factor in this country and remains a big factor in this country, whether you realize it or not. We are talking about the desperate poverty of some and the great wealth of others. A lot of that wealth is just passed through the years. This country was built on the backs of people like me. For nothing. You have your freedom. Get. I don't understand why you're not further along. We've given you your freedom. What else do you want? You can understand how working for free and getting huge amounts of wealth to some in a particular society can create great disparities as it goes through the years, particularly with that particular group was saying, all right, you're free slaves. You're free. Have at it. No, you're not going to get anything for your labor, but go. You're free. Well, that poverty goes through the years in the same way that wealth gets passed through the years. You can understand that people will come together in groups to fend off attacks. That's exactly what took place. The groups that accrued around the thing that's being attacked, their color, became some of the most dominant civil rights groups in this country. Yes, it looks a little weird from somebody from a perspective of, well, I don't see the need for these groups. I can kind of see it. But your perspective is lacking a massive amount of context. And I understand you're getting pissy about it and everything else, but does this pissiness take into account context? Does it? I understand you're frustrated and you want the world to be different. I agree with you. I would love for a situation where it will be bizarre to have a group that says blacks only. I would love to be at that place. I grew up in this country and I have the context to realize that we're not at that place. And that race is, for whatever reason, still a dominant factor. Now, I agree with you in this front. What's considered race is ridiculous. Dick Cheney and Obama are related. How much black? How much white? What is the exact percentage that makes you one over the other? And if we're just using pigment of our skin, that's a little shallow. That's a little shallow. Now, I don't expect the country to change overnight. It's taken 40, 50 years. Now, however you want to measure progress, you can measure progress. We don't have anything to measure our progress against, so we don't know how good or bad our particular progress has been. What I would say is, though, it's a little disingenuous. And I'm not saying she doesn't mean it. I think she means it. I think she means well. I think she's irritated that such a world continues to exist or needs to exist. But other people just aren't there. Like, it's like you're getting mad at society for not being what you want society to be. Yes, I would love for society to be at that place. But you realize it wouldn't be crazy to say a German group. Yes, if you're saying a white power group, that would look a little weird. And I understand what you're also saying. We look at white as being this kind of baseline of sorts. So if you have a group, well, that's just by nature a white group. If you have a black group, then that's the secondary group. But the aforementioned group that's already there is considered a base group. That's the group for whites. I understand it's weird. That's bizarre. I don't know if other people see it that way or if other people realize it, but that's what it makes it look like. If you have offshoot groups, so you may have a German, a Russian, a blah, 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 blah. It makes it look like that other group is the base group. So it wouldn't say I'm having a white power group, as if in her example, the group itself is supposed to be the white group, if that makes sense. I'm trying to provide context in the way these people are seeing these things. She's looking at it as somebody would have to say, well, I'm going to have a white group, and people would say these guys are racist. I'm saying the group that you're having is the group. That's the white group. The offshoot groups are considered the other groups. That's the point I'm trying to make to her. You wouldn't have to have a white power group at that point. The group itself is the white group. I'm trying to provide context on this because I don't think she means bad. I read Noah's response. She's just at a different place. She's just at a different place. I mean, both of you. Like, you guys are having a banging of ideologies of sorts. Claudia is looking at it from the standpoint of, I am beyond race. I am beyond color. I am beyond these things. I'm a fucking awesome human being. I am beyond these things. I don't see these things. Being an awesome fucking human being also means you still need to realize the space to which you exist. Meaning, you can feel any way you want. The reality of the situation is, African Americans have a complex history in this country. And yes, we're going to behave in particular ways that you, from your particular perspective, deems unnecessary. Your perspective in this case don't matter. It sounds like you're flipping out over a camera because you didn't get to videotape it. And I'm still making the point that these people wanted to videotape it. They may have wanted to just maintain the stream themselves because they may not have wanted anybody else to put it on their particular channel. There could have been all sorts of reasons, but you're flipping out. So I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, and the reason why you're flipping out has nothing to do with the camera. It has more to do with, why does this group exist? I think that's the heart of this conversation. Because if you're flipping out over that camera, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. I like Claudia, but that would be ridiculous. So I'm trying to get at the higher narrative of why I think she's flipping out. Why does this group exist? This group exists for a myriad of reasons. I've just went over the aggregation in the sense of African Americans around a particular racial identity. You act like it's weird. I mean, it may be weird from your perspective of being beyond these things. Beyond. But for regular people functioning in society, they find it necessary, particularly in political circles, to group themselves in ways where they find a certain level of identity. Race, unfortunately, I agree with her, has been one of those things of identifying themselves. We didn't make this game space. We weren't the ones who said we were 3/5 of a person. Don't blame us for that. We weren't the ones who were attacking somebody because of their color of their skin. We weren't the ones who were vilifying this image of blackness, whether it was in television, movies, in rhetoric. That wasn't us. This game space to which we were being attacked, yes, we were crude around race. That's not to be apologized for. And you did sit in on the meeting, so you weren't being excluded. They just asked you not to videotape. No, Claudia, the world is not there yet. I understand your frustration. The world is not there yet. So I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the work through Patreon. I watched this, and I understand where she was coming from. I get aggravated myself with this thing of entanglements. Entanglements, we're just people. Everywhere I've gone around the globe, they've just been people. They laughed the same. They cried the same. They bitched and complained and moaned in the same way. In Muslim countries, wives bugs the shit out of their husbands in the same way they do here. They were just people. They were just people. Now, many of them were living in scarcity, and so the things that they did what was of it necessary to keep their family going. But the majority of the world lives in scarcity. How do people behave when they don't have the things they need? Look at this country. Look at this country. I mean, if you want an example, you can look around the globe, but I will make the case that the same factors go here. Half this country is in poverty. Our jails are full. I don't think those things are necessarily out of whack with each other. Meaning, there's a correlation between those two things. That's all. All right. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, guys.